Hi and welcome to this weirdly early stream. Luckily, no one's watching live, so it won't make much difference to you lot. Episode 165, giving it his Simpsons name. Hi diddly ho, Cagliarinos.
I think you find that's Cagliarinos.
Oh yeah, sorry, Cagliarinos for your da. We went to friendly, but we'll talk about that at the end because it sort of has changed a few things about how I'm seeing this season. But there has actually been a bit of news, even though we've only had like sort of 3 days. A couple of them we've talked about, but Michael Scabala is the under-21s manager. Rennie Maric is the new assistant manager.
Good. Yeah. I'm glad we got that sorted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very glad we've got an under-21s manager, seeing as the first game's on Friday. And it has now occurred to me that we're not going to be able to watch for hour. Because there's a Friday night Premier League game, and they don't let them show.
Oh, yeah.
They don't let them show them at the same time. We learnt last season.
Gotta hate the Premier League.
Yeah, should have gone down. It'd have been way easier. Yeah, but I'm glad that's done because that really desperately needed doing. And Maric is very highly rated, so we'll see. The unconfirmed stuff, but looking pretty likely. New contracts for Crescencio Somerville, Sam Greenwood, and Joe Gelhardt.
Yes, and yes.
Yeah,
I am happy with that. Obviously, Greenwood and Gelhardt are definitely going to be featuring more often, given how last season finished and how he's used them through pre-season. And I think Somerville probably would have featured more had he not got that injury. Was it just after the Man City 23s game?
I think he went off injured, didn't he, in that Man City 23s game where he was... I nearly said the best player on the pitch, the best Leeds player on the pitch. Like James McAtee and people like that looked really good too. But no, he in theory should be one of the big beneficiaries from the 5 subs.
Yeah.
And as much as I wish this hasn't happened, he could also be a big beneficiary to Sinisterra getting injured.
Yeah, again, it's good to have those options there. And now, I know that having seen yesterday that there are times when the attacking midfielders go wider as well, but you can at least now add him to the list of players that is likely to feature as a backup when we are either the 4-2-3-1 as one of the 2 wide players or as one of the 2 10s.
Yeah, I think Somerville is a bit more confident inside than a lot of wingers are. So I'm looking forward to that. Admittedly, the reports, it's not... Football Insider is not the best thing in the world for accuracy, but on things like this is sort of their strong suit. Players that are on the younger side and contract news. And they've talked about all of them, but the Somerville one, about half an hour before we went live, they said he's done. So hopefully that'll get announced quite soon. Greenwood's very interesting. We'll probably talk more about him shortly with a different bit of news. But obviously Jesse Marsh really likes him. He's proved himself to be a fringes of the first team level player. And hopefully a little bit of kicking on and he can be more than that. And I don't need to talk much about Gelhardt because I'll just get all excited again.
And then the laptop will start wobbling.
Yeah, which is weird. It's not even on my lap.
With Greenwood, obviously, has looked quite comfortable playing either as a centre mid or as a 10. And I think he's looked... he finished last season off very nicely at Brentford. And has fit in perfectly fine so far with the pre-season games, I think. Again, he's probably one of those that I would imagine most of his appearances will be off the bench this season if everyone's fully fit.
You would think so. Like, he'll probably start the League Cup game.
Yeah, but no, I think he's proved himself to be a good option to have. Excellent set piece taker, which yesterday's game showed we might not have many of still.
It was better. It was a definite improvement from last season.
It's grading on a curve, is that?
I mean, not even the one we scored, because the one that Cox scored from, I don't think was one of the better balls in. There was no pace on it or anything. Cock did really well.
Yeah. But no, like you say, good to have him tied down as an option that's I think will get used more and more regularly this season.
And obviously Gelhardt. I mean, he's probably not going to. He's probably not going to start against Wolves, but I'd like him to. I've wanted him to be playing for nearly 2 years at this point. In much happier news, in a way, even happier than tying down some good young players that I rate really highly, Keiko Casilla has finally fucked off.
About damn time.
I will give you the entire Leeds United statement. Leeds United and Keiko Casilla have parted company by mutual consent. We would like to thank Keiko for his contributions during his time at the club, and we wish him well in the future. I don't wish him ill in the future, but I wouldn't go as far as well.
He's been future endeavoured, hasn't he?
Yeah, just
he's on those WWE cuts.
I'm just glad he's gone because it was a waste of wages, a waste of everything. When he first,
I think he came in on what reportedly 30 to 40 grand a week when we're in the championship.
That went up to 50 odd or something when we're going up. Yeah,
it's a big chunk of wages.
Now, the actual if we think about him in order, the actual signing of him was a very ambitious move, bringing in a keeper that I know he'd been sat on the bench all the time, but he'd been at Real Madrid, but he'd also been first choice keeper in La Liga and got in the Spain team once and got in the squad a fair bit. And it was replacing Bailey Peacock-Farrell at the time.
Northern Irish international.
You know, who, let's be right, is shite. So the signing at the start, it's a bit like the Firpo signing. It did make sense. Like, I can't have a go at the intent. And he started actually quite well. But once the errors started coming, they just kept coming. And they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming. And there was no way for Leeds United to hit the ground running.
And to be honest, it didn't make sense for us to keep him around for another year.
No, it didn't make sense for he was awful. He was just awful, wasn't it? Like, there was that run of form where, I mean, I think one of the games with Sheff Wednesday, we're battering them, and they got in once and had a weak shot, and it just went through him. And obviously, there's the playoff semi-final incident, which isn't 100% his fault, but it's a decent amount his fault.
It's at least 50%.
Yeah, but there was just so many that he did.
Yeah.
Like, can you remember that one against Ipswich on last day when it didn't matter anymore? But so you forget about it. But I think we put 3 past us, and like two
Ipswich, who had been relegated at this
point.
point.
And 2 of them were like completely. It was just a bad goalkeeper by the end.
Yeah, I think as you kind of look at it, it ended up being replacing one goalkeeper's issues with a different goalkeeper's issues. Like the issues for Bailey Peacock-Farrell was very static, dealing with crosses and
couldn't save a shot,
and did not deal well with long distance shots.
Yeah.
And then you had this. Because I remember one of his first games. I'm pretty sure we were playing Rotherham away
when he made one of the best saves I've ever seen a Leeds keeper make.
There was like a corner that seemed to go to about the edge of the box, and he sprints the length of the penalty area to punch it clear. And you're like, right, it's a bit far, but good. Like, I'm glad he's going for it. And it became like almost suicidal, some of the stuff he went for.
Yeah, once you've had timid goalkeepers over and over again, you see one being really decisive, and at first you think this is brilliant. But you know the thing I always say about Diego Llorente, he's so proactive that if he's having a good game, he'll have an absolutely worldie of a game. But if he's having a bad game, he looks like he's never played football before. Keiko Casilla has a bit of that because he's so proactive. And if he goes for everything and gets there, you get to end the game and think, wow, he's been brilliant. But he only has to screw up 2 out of 10. And he's knackered. And obviously, so that is the football side out of the way. The other side is the racism allegation from what he said to Jonathan Lecco, and the reports all found, and every single bit of evidence we've ever seen showed that he did it. So fuck him.
Yeah.
I did try and stick to. I tried to stick to football for most of it, but that is a factor you can't ignore it. So now we can stop talking about that arsehole. He's gone. He's done. We can start talking about someone that I love very, very dearly. It really sounds like Matthias Klick might be off.
That would be. It would be sad because he's such a lovable character, completely different from your typical footballer. Like on top of the goals he scored, which those 2 years in the Championship, he scored some absolutely fantastic goals and was just. I think that the redemption story from him made him even more likable as well. From being blamed for a defeat at Cardiff and exiled to Holland, to then Marcelo Bielsa going, oh yeah, he's clearly good enough for this level, and scoring against Stoke on the opening day.
Yeah. I always remember back to, because it was when Bielsa had his no group, his yes group, and his maybe group, and he was in the maybe group, wasn't he, at first, and very quickly. Probably wouldn't have started that Stoke game if Adam Forshaw wouldn't have got injured.
Adam Forshaw was injured. No.
Yeah.
But no, like, and just the shithousery he brought with him, from pretending to put on the binoculars to the water bottle, pouring a water bottle down someone's back.
Break dancing on the pitch.
Yeah, the picture of him with the cigar, fantastic. He was one of the ones doing Twitch streams in retro Leeds shirts and stuff like that. Just, I mean, I still find it odd that there's footballers who've done Twitch streams.
Yeah,
but
they're meant to all just be playing golf like proper footballers. Although I think Matthias Klick did play golf and it went really badly. I believe it was on Twitter at some point. But I mean, I still think Klick has a lot to offer. I don't want him to go. I think in the way that we play, he's probably more centre mid than attacking mid, and I think that's his problem. Because there's a lot of games where you watch Rodrigo when he isn't at his best, and you think, God, I'd rather have Klick in that role. But with 10 minutes left in a game, who's more likely to just do something that gets you a goal? It's probably Rodrigo. I think Klick is just dropped into a bit of an unfortunate play, and I think he'd be more than willing to stay for the season if it wasn't a World Cup year.
Yeah.
He'd probably go, well, I'll do one more and then I'll go, and that'll be fine. But when you look at it now, like, what have we got for options around him? So there's like Harrison, Aronson, and Rodrigo look like being the three behind the striker / Rodrigo with Bamford. Gelhart's also there and can play there, as is Greenwood. In middle of midfield, you've got Adams and Rocker and Forshaw, and JB looks good.
Yeah.
We've already said Marsh likes Greenwood.
Archie Gray's in there as well.
Yeah. Marsh likes Greenwood in that deep role. Signing Sonny Perkins means that we've got another attacking mid / forward, which probably makes Greenwood more likely to play deeper. Archie Gray is a first team player. And even with 5 subs, even though I of course still think he makes you bench of 9 and he gets on a few times, I can understand. It's no slight on Matthias Klick. If he's said, I've got a chance to play in World Cup this year, I can't just play 10 minutes every now and then. I need to play football. I don't want him to go, but he's done enough at Leeds to earn the ability to choose in this situation. If he thinks it's the right thing to do and he gets a good offer, that's fine. Because it's not going to be loads of money. We're not going to be haggling over much.
No.
Not at his age and contract situation and stuff.
No, I mean, he's 32 now, so you're looking at this World Cup potentially being his last international tournament as well. Yeah. But, we're into last decent contract territory as well. So if there's a chance for him to get a move to play first team football somewhere, that'd be great. I'd love it if somehow we can get him and Alioski together.
Yeah, just rock up.
Just one last run.
I'm just having a look to check. Apparently, he has got 2 years left on his deal. But the if it happens, it happens. But I still think that he's a good player to have around, and if I get my way, I would prefer him to stay.
Yeah, we've spoken about it before, and I think it was predominantly at the end of the first season in the Premier League where, you know, there did have to be this reality of we do need to start replacing some of these players now. And unfortunately, it wasn't sustainable having Ayling, Dallas, Click, you know, even at the end of the first season, when you still had Hernandez and Berardi in the squad as well, and you just, as sad as it was, we kind of had to lose the sentimentality. And I think it hurts because up until Bielsa and kind of having a squad that stuck together for a number of years, there've been so many players come in sort of between Simon Grayson's era and Bielsa that just came and went, and at best you felt nothing towards them. At worst, you were like, "Why were you here? As long as you were Michael fucking Brown." You know, so it was quite nice that we had these players that had one actually achieved something, and two were likable people.
Yeah, that's one thing that Matthias Click has in spades. He's very likable.
He's just something different as a footballer, and it fits Leeds. Like, you know, we as much as I think there would be, you know, again, the images of the players drinking after promotion went round, and we all were like, "Go on, lads, you've earned this." We do like someone who's a bit different, you know, and not even just in a, oh, you know, we do like someone who puts in a tackle or whatever. It just we sort of like an outsider in that sense.
Yeah. So I doubt that anything will move on that mega quickly. So I think, you know, it'll probably
be gone by the time the podcast goes out in about an hour.
Yeah, probably. We'll find out that he is at Vizsla Krakow for.
Yeah.
Oh shit. So the friendly. Well, actually, before the friendly, the Lionesses won.
Yes.
Yeah, they won the Euros. Obviously, I have since watched the highlights and I watched a few bits live, but we both went to the friendly.
Yeah.
So the unfortunate scheduling meant that we couldn't watch all of it. But I think it said a lot for how well, considering the normal viewing figures of women's football, how much this has really got people. Because there was a few people just staying down in the concourse watching it, weren't there? And when that cheer went up for England's second goal, loads of people jumped out of the seat and sprinted down to the concourse to go watch it. I didn't.
I very slowly stood up and walked into the concourse, but because of how small the seats are in the east stand lower, I just needed to move.
Yeah. Whereas because it wasn't a full ground, the 5G actually worked, so I just got iPlayer up.
Yeah.
Which was nice. But no, it was a really good achievement. I'm absolutely delighted for him. By the way, Rachel Daly was tweeting with Radrizani. I have a feeling that she's going to be on the pitch on Saturday. Good.
Yeah.
Just fantastic to see, and hopefully Leeds can get the women's team up the leagues a bit, because I think that would really help with engagement around here. I think that, and this is not necessarily, I think every Leeds fan wants the Leeds women's team to win, but the majority of the time they're not really bothered. Well, I couldn't even say that I am.
Who would be the closest Super League team to us here?
Now
I couldn't remember. Are Doncaster in the Super League, or
no? Didn't they lose out when they did the when they sort of half franchised it? Because they'd been winning it all the time for years. Like in the Women's Super League, by the looks of this, the closest teams.
Is it Manchester?
It's Man City and Man United, I think.
Yeah. You know, and I know it was very encouraging at the end of last season when Newcastle had that home fixture. I think they got about 20,000 at St James's Park, didn't they? They got a big crowd for their first game there. But yeah, at this point, it's bad that there's not a team closer in this region. And not to say that if Huddersfield had a women's team in the Super League, I'd be supporting them. But the fact that there's no Yorkshire representation there at all isn't great. So it'd be quite nice in the next few years if we could get the investment in there and sort of get to that level.
Because it always feels like, and don't get me wrong, it is not this simple. But when you teams in the Premier League, it does feel like it had cost so little money to make a massive difference to women's team. But you can't just siphon some off because, it costs. We've got loads of money in the Premier League now, but all of it's going out on other things.
Yeah, I mean, the fortunate side of it is at least now it doesn't count towards FFP, does it? The investment into the women's teams. So if that did come, at least it's not going to affect us from that perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at this point now, it would be quite nice to see a year or two with, I'm not saying put them straight into the Super League now, but some better investment into it now, and so that there wouldn't be such a jump when the time comes for us to go to that next level.
Yeah, hopefully we can get up, and as with the 21s games, when it's possible, if you whatever amount it is to not completely knacker the pitch, stick games at Ellen Road and make them free for season ticket holders, and people will go. You'll probably get more at the minute at the 21s games than in the women's games, but give it time.
I mean, now is the time to get a women's game at Ellen Road as soon as you can.
The first available game should be at Ellen Road, because you're right. This is the exact time to do it if you want to get people in. And we got plenty in for Leeds United 6, Cagliari 2. It was just short of 30, wasn't it?
29 and a bit thousand. Very nice turnout, because they ended up opening the sections of the East End upper, didn't they?
Yeah. We won't do this the normal way of just going through the game in order, because with it being a friendly, it's better to look at, because I'm fairly sure the 11 we saw is the 11 we're going to see against Wolves.
Yeah.
You might maybe one change if someone gets a knock, but we'll go through it basically player by player. So a quick recap. First half, Leeds were pretty good. Defensively was fairly solid. Cagliari did get in behind a couple of times, but nothing. They had one decent chance.
Well, I can't believe they let him in behind.
Yeah.
I don't know who he was, but someone behind us got very annoyed that he got in behind.
Yeah, and then it turned out that he's absolutely rapid. So played some pretty good stuff. Had some decent chances. Really good goal from Rodrigo. But the second half was when it really opened up. They made a few changes. We obviously didn't. But we started playing some much better football in the second half. Some of the movement was pretty good. Rodrigo has been given a generous second goal, but it was an own goal. I've seen the replay back. It looked like it was off the keeper, but it definitely wasn't. It was a pullback, basically.
I never looked to see if he actually went off with the match ball.
No, I don't know if he'll have bothered. Third goal, probably the pick. I think it was the pick of them. Well, the fourth one was pretty good as well. But Cagliari come forward, ball comes to Aronson, edge at box. He breaks away from midfield, plays a really good ball outside of his foot. Bamford goes through, calm finish, really well taken. Then Leeds had a 10. It was, I think,
it might have been 5. It was very quick.
Christensen had his head injury, which looked nasty, but it appeared they were both fine, even though they took theirs off. It looked superficial rather than actually dangerous. And then Robin Koch hurt his knee a bit. And in that sort of a little bit of messing about, they just seemed to lose concentration. And then is it Lavombo, wasn't it, the number 9?
Yeah.
Just started being a massive threat. And they were just knocking balls, particularly over Strauk to in behind our left back. But they just kept getting in behind. First one, I'm less annoyed about the first one, because although Llorente did get sucked out a bit too much, it was a really good step over and then run. It was quite a good it was a good bit of movement between two strikers. And looking back, it might have been a yard offside anyway. Christensen, though, was like 3 yards behind the rest of the defensive line, which was a bit of a shame. And good finish. Second one, Robin Koch goes in to make a tackle, misses it, gets a second chance, misses that one as well. Lovombo's breaking through, and you're going, right, you enter, go across, and he doesn't go across, and he scores.
Top corner.
It was a very good finish, to be fair, but it's bad defending. But then it should have been 3-3. Again, this time Lovombo was in middle, and he was about 4 yards offside, not ball over top. But the guy on the right was 4 yards onside. No one went with him, ran in, cross, missed the sitter. And you thought, geez, it was like such a... You know that 10 minutes against Villa last season away? Well, we went from 1-0 up to 3-1 down in no time. We basically did that. We just stopped playing completely. Leeds' fourth goal, really good bit of play. Mark Locker played a really nice ball out to Strauch. Strauch brought it out of his feet and played like a nice pass inside to Harrison. He beat his man, pull back, Bamford tapping on the line. Very similar goal for the fifth. This time Rodrigo from an Aronson pull back after they'd given the ball away. And then Robin Koch made it 6 with a header from an Aronson free kick. That's like flying through the game because there's no point going into all the detail. First thing, before we get into like each player, how's your confidence level after that game compared to before it?
Yeah, it was better. It definitely showed, regardless of the opposition, that the understanding of our tactical approach is there. And I thought throughout they pressed very well. You know, obviously the big move. I know there was the attempt to transition last season once Jesse had come in, but now it'll be the full move into pressing certain areas of the pitch. So you tend to see now that the centre backs in possession will kind of allow them to carry it a certain distance, and it's once it goes to the full backs, typically you'll get Harrison, in this case Harrison or Aronson will sort of lead the press, and it's almost like kind of putting a sort of a semicircle around them to try and force them back in as much as you have. If it's with their left back, you've got Aronson going across, Bamford's kind of trying to cover the inside pass a bit more. So I thought they actually executed that very well for the most part, and the concern will probably be for a while yet the space in behind the fullbacks when we lose
and the space
possession.
and the space on the far side.
Yeah,
whichever side it is, far.
Yeah, but for the most part, I thought it looked like we fully understand the tactical approach now. It was quite nice to see there were times when either Aronson or Harrison would stay out on the touchline, especially when we were kind of bringing it out for defence.
That, for me, was my biggest takeaway and my biggest thing for being a bit more confident than I was. In Australia, it happened occasionally, but we were really narrow. And I know that's sort of his thing, and I'm not mad keen on it, but that's fine. Whereas this, we were mostly narrow. But sometimes, if Mark Locker had the ball on the left side, you know, one of the wingers, whether it was Aronson or Harrison, at least one of them was willing to go stand on the touchline sometimes. And it really helps us, because if you narrow all the time, you cannot stretch for defence. But if you go wide, even if it's only occasionally, it gives them something to think about, and we looked much, much better for it.
Yeah, and I think probably more so in the first half, I noticed quite a few times, especially with Stroud, that you get him playing the crossfield ball to Aronson, who was typically on the touchline for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of it made me feel a bit more confident that it's not this entirely rigid system that leads a narrow side. There are exceptions to that, which I think there needs to be, because otherwise, I think when you play as narrowly as we did in pre-season, it can also become very predictable.
Yeah. The other thing, that it wasn't just that I thought the press for the most part was good. It looked more aggressive to me. Like there was a couple of moments where Locker lost the ball, and instead of the instinct to just drop in, he sprinted forward 20 yards to get in amongst the and really surround the ball. And that is, I know that's a lot more. If we do that against Man City, yeah, they'll probably pick us off. But that will probably happen no matter what style you're playing. I ain't particularly worried about games like that. Whereas doing things like that might be the thing that makes a difference against Southampton or against Bournemouth or, that sort of game. So I don't get me wrong, I don't suddenly think we're going to win the league, even though I think I have titled this thing, they might as well hand us the trophy now. I'm not as pessimistic as I was after that game yesterday. I really think the front four played some very good stuff. Rodrigo was a bit off it for about 10 minutes, but after that, I thought he was really good. And once he got his confidence going a bit, he played some passes that were really good, and the exact sort of thing that we've been missing in this sort of situation.
Yeah, I've said a few times, I've thought Rodrigo's kind of looked at his best when he's actually playing around Patrick Bamford.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that, again, a run of that will do him some good. And I think if you've got, whichever way you play it, if you have three players around him in Bamford, Harrison and Aronson, who are as aggressive pressing as they are, I think that takes a lot of the pressure off him to do that, because it's just not his style. Whereas if he's your number 9, you lose that straight away in that central area.
Because the thing with Rodrigo is, I don't think he's never been unwilling to press. He's just not very good at it.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's just not it's just not in his strengths. But if you've got, and if you include the 2 central midfielders in that, in Adams and Rocker, if you've got those 5 people around him that are pressing well, it takes that pressure off him then. And as long as he's kind of doing enough of his job, you sort of get away with it. So I feel better about that as well, as long as Bamford stays injury free.
Yeah, I shouldn't mention, Leeds made no subs in this, and the bench was people who were never going to play in a million years and Mateus Click.
Costa.
Which looked really weird at first, but it then came out that Leeds played a game yesterday against the Man City 11. And a lot of the players, all the players who you would have thought would have been on the bench for this, all played like 60 to 90 minutes in that game.
Yeah.
Which is fine, absolutely fine. Player by player, some of these will have a lot to say about, some of them we won't. Speaking of won't, Illan Meslier.
There was nothing he could really do about either goal. Apart from that, was fine.
Yeah, cool. First interesting one, Rasmus Christensen.
Love that man.
Yeah,
he is cult hero written all over him.
Well, I think it's quite clear. It's not even I think the club is pushing that as a narrative. Like they are going.
It's your new Pontus Jansson.
Hey, Christensen, Jansson, they both say son. But no, he looks really good. The thing that there's a couple of things he made a couple of very good tackles, which always helps. Defensively, he looked strong enough. He'd left space in behind him, but you're going to as a fullback in this system. There's not really any way around that. I thought he linked up really well with Aronson. You can tell that they know each other.
Yeah.
And he showed really good awareness. He played a couple of really creative passes, and in particular, he took late on when there wasn't much at stake. He took a really good quick free kick that got us in behind from nowhere. I just thought that he was always willing to overlap and try and get to the byline. I was very impressed with him.
Yeah, I think physically, he looks like he will absolutely be fine in the Premier League. He's a big lad. I think I said to you last night, he definitely looks like he could do a job at centre back if needs be. But no, in terms of he's definitely got the legs for what is needed from a fullback in this system. Like you say, it's great that you've already got that built-in partnership with him and Aronson. So yeah, I'm very impressed with him.
And I would say, even though it appears he's fine, I still have to say that I don't understand why we didn't just take him off when he got that head injury. Even if it was completely superficial and we stitched him up. Just bring Click on and stick Tyler Adams at right back for a bit. Like, it's a friendly.
Yeah.
just let it go. It's fine.
If it comes out today that he actually suffered a concussion,
yeah,
I'll be very annoyed that we put him back on.
Yeah. Robin Koch.
Outside of that 10-minute period where they had the chances, I think he was completely fine. Steady away. I think there was one or two misplaced passes into sort of central areas, but nothing diabolical.
Yeah, so with the amount we play through the middle, you're going to get some of them.
Yeah.
And they're going to look... The thing is, if you go through the middle and mess it up, it looks so much worse than giving it away, trying to go wide.
Yeah.
The 10 minutes was bad. It was a good header for his goal from the Anderson set piece. I like Robin Koch. I prefer him to Llorente. If one of them was going to play right centre back, that's the one I'd want. Next to Llorente, I have brackets the negative ? Because I don't think he was particularly good on either goal, and I thought he was actively terrible on the second one. But the one thing that he has been doing that I think the defensive mistakes nearly made me forgot about, but it needs to be fair, he does pick passes through the lines from centre back that gets up the pitch better than any of the other options we have back there.
That's the Spanish flair in him.
Yeah.
But
he played a couple of really nice ones, like as Rodrigo dropped off the front, aiming for him, or playing straight for Bamford. That were really good passes, and that will help if he can be consistent with it.
Yeah, it definitely helped last night that out of possession, Cagliari showed little interest in pressing anyone up until the halfway line.
Yeah.
So he definitely got given a bit more time than I think he will in the Premier League. But it's, we've always said about Llorente, he always looks very comfortable on the ball. It's just sometimes he looks too comfortable on the ball.
Yeah. Because he can look comfortable until the moment he steps on the ball.
Yeah.
Or
the moment he's thrown in a wild turn for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. Or the moment that he, for some reason, every time we conceded a goal, ends up on the floor. Even if there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
At left back, Pascal Struijk.
Yeah. Again, solid game. I think because obviously you see him at centre back, you forget how good of an athlete I think he is, and he did very well getting up and down from left back. I don't think his natural ability is what Christensen's is once he's in that final third, but he can put a decent enough ball in there. He's got the legs to, in this case, get past Harrison when he needed to. And again, same. It'll be the same as any fullback you talk about in this system. There'll be times when someone will get in behind him, but that will happen.
Yeah. We need a left back, but he is fine.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that this comment from a friend of ours, Alex Benison, is Llorente by the time. Leaves you too exposed to playing the Prem. People like Neto running at him will be an issue. People like anyone running at him will be an issue, to be honest. It's not, and he's not even slow. he just don't work. The midfield too. I think we'll say Adams first, because I think he was less flashy.
Yeah, a relatively quiet game for him, because the times they were in possession in our half was typically on a counter attack, so he was a bit higher up anyway. I think when we were all set, he was pretty comfortable closing down and sort of just keeping things ticking over. I think you said last night that you'll typically tend to get more out of him when we are in more defensive games, when we're against better opposition almost.
Yeah, that's definitely what it looks like. I think the way I phrased it was, if Leeds had a game where we had 70% possession, you probably wouldn't notice Tyler Adams was playing. And that's not because he's doing... It's because neither he doesn't seem to make any really good passes that you go, oh, that's a really good ball. Nor does he give the ball away stupidly. He's just there, and that's absolutely fine.
He's there to give it to Mark Rocker.
Yeah, but if we had 40% of possession in a game, which is going to happen a lot more than the 70, he chases around everyone and he harries and he likes to tackle. He looks good, but I really like Mark Rocker.
His range of passing is
this is good. This is good, but I like this.
He's got a good range of passing as Mark Rocker, hasn't he? And again, kind of that quarterbacking almost from in front of the back four of just give me that. I'm going to give it to Harrison now, and then just moving us up from there.
Thing that I liked, one thing that I want to point out with Rocker before I forget, that was different in this game compared to Australia. It wasn't just the running up and pressing off the ball. He got forward a lot more in this game. And I know it's probably because Cali Reid weren't great, but he arrived on the edge of the box. He had a couple of efforts. He had one from edge of the box and one where he got in like the inside left channel. But it was sort of a Mateus Click type of run. He seemed a lot more comfortable going forward, which I was pleased to see. It just more strings to his bow. And he also seemed quicker in person than he did on TV. Like, still not rapid by any stretch, but in some games on TV he looked slow, and in this one he didn't.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any issues I would have had with him, but I can't really think of anything.
Well, there's one.
Is it the number of free kicks he gives away?
Yeah. Like I've already said, that I think the way that we're going to do the points we'll still predict the score, but the actual points thing is going to be pick a bet and the price. And we'll see what we end up with at the end of the season.
Mark Rocker to get booked.
Depending on the price, Mark Rocker to be booked on the opening day is a very strong front runner to be mine.
God, he loves pulling a man back, doesn't he?
In the same way that I was fuming when I found out that Charlie Cresswell was 18-1 to score any time for Millwall. Because I was like, well, he's not. I mean, he's going to get on the end of corners. It's like having Jake Cooper at that price for him as well. He gets on the end of everything. This would, if it turns out that he's like, I mean, to be honest, if he's anything over even money to be booked, I think it's probably a bet.
Yeah, the amount of times he just stops play by grabbing a shirt.
Yeah. And in friendlies, he's been able to do it like 3 times a game and get booked.
Yeah.
But the way he does it in the Premier League, unless it's in literally the first minute, he's going to get booked for the first one.
Yeah.
And that could be a problem. He might be worse for bookings per minute than Firpo. There's a chance. On the left, I normally do the right first, but I think he's more interesting, so I'll leave him for the second of these two. On the left, Jack Harrison. First of all, number 11.
Number 11, Jack Harrison. He's taking on the mantle of Tyler Roberts.
What a way to phrase it.
Could have picked any of the great players from my time supporting Leeds. No. It's a good act to follow, I suppose. No, again, the reason I think it would have been so surprising if we'd have ended up selling Harrison outside of getting a ridiculous bid for him was because he already has a good understanding of pressing, and even though he is now required to play a bit more centrally, he can do that, and I think he fits into this system very comfortably. I think if anything, playing more centrally might give him a chance to get more goals. When we're going forward, which what's he got 16 goals in these 2 seasons so far, something like that.
I think he got 8 in both, because I think the first season was 8 goals, 8 assists. I remember that being a thing, and I think he got 8 again last season. But weren't they like all second half of the year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind 3 of them came up against West Ham.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing that we don't already know about Jack Harrison from this game. He presses well. He's got lots of energy. I say he's got a chance to score among. I can't actually think of too many chances he had in this game, but
no,
I suppose in this we did basically play with it was the close to 4-2-2. I thought.
Yeah, obviously Rodrigo did drop off the front a lot, so it didn't make much difference between the two systems. But Rodrigo was slightly further forward than the most central 10 has been in the previous couple of games.
Yeah.
I thought Harrison was really good. When we first started playing this system, I didn't think it'd suit him at all, but yeah, he's proved me wrong on it. I think he's quite comfortable playing inside. I still think long term, if Sinistera ends up good, he might end up on the right with Sinistera on the left, but we'll have to see how good he becomes. There is another story going around that Newcastle have made another bid for him that's meant to be about 40 million euros. And in euros, apparently Leeds want 47, 48. I just don't think it's going to happen. Because if Newcastle want a player to play that position, play off the left in attack or maybe play left wing back sometimes. Maxwell Cornet's release clause is like 18 million.
Well,
just sign him.
They're also in for Maddison at the moment, aren't they? In for James Maddison. And again, I think they've had an initial bid turned down by Leicester.
You're not getting him cheap off Leicester. They're liable to ask you for 100 million.
I think they went in. I think their opening offer was 40, and I think it was rejected out of hand.
Yeah,
there's no point even vaguely negotiating that first offer.
And rightly so. They paid 20 odd for him from Norwich, and he's a much better player than that now.
Yeah, I mean, that is also the downside for Newcastle, is that everyone knows how much money they have. Yeah. So, you can hold out for them. I'm not just because of how much I like him personally. I really hope he doesn't go, because
I don't want him to go. I also want him to sign a new. If he hasn't gone by the end of his transfer window, before October, I want him on a new contract.
Yeah, he's got 2 years left, so it's a good time to get him on a new deal. From between Bielsa and Marsh, I can only imagine at this point that he is an absolute dream to work with.
Yeah, and the fact that he spends his entire off-season apparently in the gym.
Yeah.
Then onto the right wing / right 10, and for me, the man of the match, Brendan Aronson. Also, Leeds, learn how to spell his name. You spelled it wrong on the big screen.
He was so good.
Yeah.
You could see why straight away Bielsa would have been happy to have him in the team. That lad will run all day. He covered so much ground. He presses so well, and presses aggressively as well, like you said earlier. His link-up play with Christensen was fantastic. I thought he played well off Rodrigo and Bamford as well. But I
think he makes very intelligent runs as well. He seems to make. We've had a few players who you'll go, he needs to run outside there, not inside, and we'll do the wrong one. I didn't really see him doing that. My worry based in Australia was that he didn't actually have the technical quality to make it count in the final third. He did yesterday.
Yeah.
So maybe it was just a matter of him getting more comfortable with it. But yeah, I thought he was outstanding. I will tidy the joke up to make it a bit nicer, but someone saying he could find space in a single bed with me. Which, is pretty good going. I just thought Aronson was outstanding. I think it said a lot about Aronson that everyone was talking about how good he was. And like your mum, who, she doesn't go every game. She came to the friendly with us. And that was the player that she was looking at, like, yeah, him and Christensen. So you're like, yeah, them.
The best mate. Really, and two in Orange Cassidy.
Yeah. Hell of a reference, Casey.
Yeah.
I thought
gentleman.
I just thought Aronson was outstanding in this game, and he is definitely gone from someone who I think this makes sense as a signing. I'm hoping he comes good. I'm now actively excited about him as a signing.
Number 7 as well.
Put it this way, I brought him into my fantasy team today.
Oof. Yeah, he was fantastic.
Yeah. The hat-trick sort of hero. Rodrigo.
The man with 2.5 goals.
If you'd have asked me about Rodrigo, and we have talked about this on the podcast 3 weeks ago, there was no way he was in the starting lineup on the opening day. I think he probably will be, and I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, I think if this game was sort of the final test as to as to who starts next weekend. I think he passed. There was a couple of early moments, like you say, the first 10, 15 minutes that were
He
just
takes an extra touch too often.
Were just typical of Rodrigo. But
yeah.
I think once him and Leeds got going, I thought his movement was fantastic. He was very unselfish at times.
He played a fair few drop off the front and play it from central to the left wing curling passes.
Yeah.
And there needs to be the space to do it, and other teams probably won't make it as easy. But he just kept getting it right.
And a lot of the stuff you saw with Rodrigo, you get the feeling he's very much a confidence player. That when it's going right for him, those things come off more. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen as often when you're leading the line in a team that's in a relegation fight.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed that he could. We can start this. We get off to a decent enough start. Because I think we were talking on the Phil Hayes show. It was the last time I'd spoken to Hayden Evans. It was sort of mid-October. Leeds were 15th, and that was the best it got. And God, I tell you what, if we could be 11th by that point,
obviously, this would be something that we'll talk about more detail later in the week when we do his actual preview. But we have got quite a nice start. We need to make the most of it. We don't have to win them all because we're not good enough to do that. But we need.
What was it?
You want a solid
last
start.
Season? Did it take us 5 or 6 games to get our first win?
Yeah, you can't have that again this season.
No, if you can get through, at this point, you get 4. If you get 4 points out of your first 3 games, it's at least a steady enough start.
Yeah. What was that? Wolves at home, Southampton away, Chelsea at home. Yeah, if you got 4 points out of that,
yeah,
that's a solid start. It's not a great start. It's solid. Rodrigo has done it. Obviously, there's still a bit of me would just play Gelhardt instead because I just rate him that much. But he's played well enough. It's absolutely fine. And then, thank God, Bamford actually kind of looked. And he didn't look his absolute best, but he looked so much sharper than he did in Australia.
Yeah, he had 1 or 2 chances that he probably should have done better with. I'm not saying he should have scored, but I think he didn't end up troubling the goalkeeper. But I thought, again, you spoke about the intelligence of Aronson. I thought Bamford was making some very good runs and providing options for players like Rocker and Aronson to pick him out. Again, presses well, but we already knew he had that ability. And it was just nice to see him getting on the score sheet as well.
Yeah, getting into good position.
And getting through 90 minutes, which I wasn't entirely sure. I know even looking at that subs bench, I still wasn't entirely sure that he was going to play the full thing.
Yeah, we have had another question from Jack Field. Do you think we need to sign another attacking option, or do you feel confident we have enough with Bamford, Rodrigo, Gelhardt, Greenwood? I think we need another striker.
Yeah, the concern for me would be if Rodrigo, Gelhardt, or Greenwood gets injured. I'm not that concerned. If Bamford gets injured, I'm very concerned.
Which is why it's taken all summer for it to happen. But we are being linked with a move for Che Adams because apparently Southampton are willing to sell at quite a reasonable price. I mean, that the podcast that we did after the Brentford game, when we stayed up, we said I could see Che Adams happening. Alter likes. He has the players on his list that he likes. He is one of them. Yeah. And he'll be available. And there's a lot of things that he does that are similar to things that Bamford does. I think Bamford does them better. But we're talking about a player who would be the backup to him.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not an exciting signing when you've been linked to De Ketelaere all summer and stuff. This is not glamorous. But I think it'd be a pretty good signing.
Yeah, and that's sort of what we need at this point. Is I think you've got your players in that are going to be starting the majority of games this season, and it is now putting in those the backup striker to Bamford and
a
someone
starting
who
left
could,
back.
yeah. You say starting left back. I don't feel that's what they're going for.
No, but it should be.
It's what people think they should go. But no, I think that was the big thing. That take out the number of injuries we had last season, in most positions, you could reasonably look and go, we have someone who can fill in and do that job.
Yeah.
But we did not have anyone who could do what Patrick Bamford did. And we need something close to that so that if he gets injured again, we're not relying on Rodrigo as your main striker, or even Gelhardt, who, again, as much as we highly rate him, it's not the sort of pressure I want on him at this point of his career.
Yeah. And we have sort of already talked about this, but it's the last question on my notes that I wrote. Is this the 11 for the Wolves match?
Yeah, I think early doors, I think I'd said to you that the only one you'd really look at and question would be Rodrigo, because I think there's enough, 2 or 3 players, whether it's Gelhardt, Rodrigo, Greenwood, could play there.
You could also move Aronson inside by one.
Yeah, but I think realistically, after that performance, I'd be very surprised to see that change.
Yeah, same. I would be. I mean, I actually did think, because they did name Sonny Perkins as one of them subs, didn't they? I thought they might give him 10 just at the end, because I mean, I'm assuming he's going to play in the under-21s on Friday and work towards getting in the first team. But we'll see with that. So yeah, that'll do us. I don't know what day we'll do the preview. It'll be Wednesday night or Thursday night, and you play football Wednesday, so probably Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first Premier League game's Friday, so we want it done before that. So yeah, we'll probably be back on Friday in the evening, because I think I'm out through the day Thursday. But yeah, that will do us for episode 165 at Mighty White's podcast. I've been Jack. See you.
Okay, see you. Have a good one.
In a bit, and we're going to win the